The polar vortex is set to arrive in the second week of January, bringing some bitter cold air along with it. At the same time, the polar jet stream will start to become active, bringing some heavier snows within this corridor. And then the southern branch of the jet stream will also start to become active, and that will set up a more favorable conditions even for those areas across the south and southeast of winter weather possibilities. So things start to get very interesting as we head into January. So if you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns, hit the subscribe button and you're in. You get all my daily content on this channel, and I would love to reach 250,000 subscribers by the end of the month, and you can help me get there by subscribing to the channel and following all my daily breakdowns. So here we are right now as we head towards New Year's Eve time frame. You've got some of the very cold and bitter air really starting to build across Alaska and the Yukon Territory. In fact, they've got extreme wind chill warnings up here across northern areas of Alaska. Dangerous wind chills approaching 75 degrees below zero. That is dangerous stuff. And that just is the signs of some of that bitter cold air that will start plunging into the lower 48 as we especially head towards that, say, fifth time frame of January, bringing easily the coldest temperatures of the season. And then we'll look at the polar jet. This is where the polar jet will align during that first week of January, say from the 1st through around the 6th or 7th time frame. So we'll start to see bitter cold air start to plunge down there from the Yukon Territory, bringing along a low pressure system that will set up a heavier snow swath along this corridor. So I am expecting a lot of heavy snow to fall within that first week of January, especially to the north of this boundary right here as we move through the data. So as we head towards your New Year's Day time frame, you'll start to see the beginning stages of some of that colder air really starting to release down there from Alaska and the Yukon Territories, heading into the British Columbia area, and that will eventually start entering the lower 48 as we get deeper into that first week of January, and that will increase the snow probabilities. So here's your surface map as we head towards New Year's Day. We'll likely see some heavier snows that will move through the Great Lakes as well as into the mid-Atlantic and up here portions of southern Canada. We'll also see more snow coming back in the picture for those areas across the Pacific Northwest and the mountain ranges of the Intermountain West. And that will just be beginning stages of much colder air, because especially as we head into that first weekend of January, this is the January 4th timeframe, we'll start to see the beginning stages of some of that Arctic air being released up there across the Yukon Territories and start plunging southbound. So you'll definitely feel the gradient of much colder air, and this will also set the stage for that winter weather possibilities and the heavier snows that will likely unfold across this region. Further south will be in the warm sector across Texas and still much of the southeast. Unfortunately, that could set the stage for even some severe storms heading into Sunday for East Texas and Arkansas into Louisiana. So things definitely start to get interesting as we head into this weekend. We'll start to see heavier snows really start to come along into portions of Montana, back into the Dakotas. You'll start to see the intrusion of some of that Arctic air and the warmer air to the south. That will cause a battle zone in the middle, unfortunately setting up an icy setup for those areas across Kansas. And then further south will set the stage for possibly another severe weather event heading into Sunday. This is another negatively tilted trough. We had a similar type setup, unfortunately, that just arrived, and unfortunately that produced a widespread severe weather outbreak and a lot of tornadoes. And we've got some similar dynamics to another type of setup that could unfold another severe weather outbreak Heading into Sunday for those areas across East Texas, Louisiana, back into Arkansas, that will likely bleed into areas on Monday. We'll have a dominating low pressure center that will be highlighted over portions of Oklahoma and Kansas. To the north of there, we'll be setting the stage for a winter storm with heavier snows. To the south in the warm sector, heavy rain and, tapping into some of those dew points. So as we head into that Sunday timeframe, as that Arctic air continues to plunge southbound, the dew points will tap into that moist sector with that negatively tilted trough. So definitely puts these areas across East Texas in a susceptible risk for more severe storms to break out in the afternoon into the evening time frame for East Texas and to Arkansas, back into those areas of Louisiana. We'll have a lot of water vapor coming back in the picture by then. We'll have a low pressure center that's highlighted across this region. So that will set the stage for a winter storm that's going to be really breaking out with heavier snows. To the south, we'll have heavier rains. The tornadic activity, unfortunately, large hail, damaging winds, all three modes of severe weather is likely heading into Sunday, going into Monday across the Dixie Alley region. And so the setup on Sunday afternoon with that Arctic air coming southbound, it really starts to build with a lot of pink showing up on the map across British Columbia. For those areas across areas of Montana, we'll really start to see the beginning stages of that Arctic air. And then well to the south, you'll still be in that warm sector awaiting for that Arctic air to arrive. But the heavier snow swaths should look like this beginning on the 4th. So between, say, the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th time frame, we're looking for definitely some heavier snows and a bunch of snow that will highlight it across Montana, through Wyoming, back into Colorado, that will slingshot just to the north of that area of low pressure into Kansas, Missouri, back into Illinois, through Kentucky, and points northbound into Indiana, Ohio, as well as into the West Virginia, into the mid-Atlantic, as well as into the Northeast. That will be your heavier snow swath, say between the 4th and your 7th time frame. So by Sunday, the 5th, it looks like this. You got the severe weather to the south. East Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas is unfortunately in the bullseye for severe weather outbreak to unfold. To the north, you'll have that battle zone, the sharp gradient with that overrunning type setup and an ice storm, potentially setting up across Missouri, back into Illinois. And then you got the heavier snows that will be highlighted across northern areas of Oklahoma, getting into Kansas, and then slingshotted into Missouri, Iowa, back into Illinois, as well as into Indiana. So as we continue to move through Monday, that changeover in the backside will be heavy snows. Some of this could be 1 to 2 inches per hour as the Arctic air continues to plunge in from the northwest. That will drop. That will have the snow ratios not at 1 to 10. They're likely 1 to 15 type ratios, with some of that very heavy snows 1 to 2 inches per hour at times, leading to the north of this low pressure. Heavier rains and some severe storms to the south for Georgia, back into the Carolinas, and then the battle zone will be in the middle. And then you have the heavier snows to the north through Pennsylvania, heading into that Monday, the 6th time frame, and heading into the 7th. We'll still have that wraparound moisture that will likely bleed into the Ohio Valley by then, getting into the mid-Atlantic and heading up into the Northeast, as this low pressure center will continue to lift northeastbound by then. And then we'll have again another wave of Arctic air. So I think it comes in like in 3 separate waves that will be coming in. The first initial plunge is on the 5th. It will reload again on the 6th or say 7th time frame. And then you'll have another surge 8th, 9th, and 10th. So you'll have very cold conditions highlighted across the polar jet that will bring some very bitter cold anomalies across this region. Further south, that's when I think the active subtropical jet stream, the southern branch of the jet stream, as the Arctic air will plunge all the way down into Mexico by then, overrunning type setup, and that will start the stage for potential greater probabilities of some snow even further south. So between now and the 7th, the heavier snow swaths look like this, to more likely 1 to 15 inch per hour, 1 to 15 inch ratios, or which would be more likely factoring in that Arctic air with heavier snow swath across that boundary like I showed you. So easily we could be picking up some 6, 12s, even some 18-inch totals. Definitely not out of the question for portions of Missouri just to the north of that low pressure, Illinois, Indiana, back in Ohio, as well as into Pennsylvania, New York, even possibly New Jersey. Some of this area could be picking up some pretty significant snows through that 7th time frame of January. But once we hit the 8th, I think that's when the southern branch of the jet stream will likely become active. We'll still have the polar jet diving in much colder air. This will be really cold and bitter anomalies setting up across the northern tier of the U.S., north central U.S., through the Great Lakes, back through the Ohio Valley, getting into the mid-Atlantic. This will be definitely some true Arctic air will be plunging in by then, as some moderated Arctic air will be plunging further south, but the jet stream will start to become a lot more active as we head into that 8th time frame. That's when we could see a little bit more favorable type setup for even some winter weather probabilities increasing across this corridor, say between the 8th, 9th, 10th, maybe even possibly the 11th time frame. So I'll be definitely fine-tuning this, as we get closer to this particular setup, moving through the 8th time frame, because we'll have that other wave of very Arctic air will be plunging southbound. So this Arctic air likely sets up east of the Continental Divide. So then you'll have 3 waves of colder air starting from the 5th. You'll have another wave, and then you'll have yet another wave towards the 10th time frame, with definitely the coldest air, easily the coldest air of the season, tapping into that more active subtropical jet stream. You'll have some 20, if not 30 degrees below average anomalies in place for the Tennessee Valley by then, back into Arkansas. It's not severe storms, right? This will be Arctic air and have the potential cause overrunning setup, maybe an icy Mitch, maybe even some snow by then, even for those areas across the south and the southeast. So if we even look at the ensemble guidances, and this is getting a little bit more bullish with every single update, guys. This is the European ensembles between now and the 2nd week of January. Yes, this is the probability of at least 1 inch of snow. So we could be even looking at some sort of, say, icy Mitch, even some snow through Oklahoma, a good part of Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, even to the Carolinas. I mean, that's 10, 20, 30, 40% probabilities on an ensembles, even towards that 2nd week, with a more favorable synoptic setup for winter weather possibilities, including some ice potential and even some snow potential for those areas across the south and southeast, heading into that 2nd week of January. So it definitely gets pretty interesting. I'll definitely keep you updated on this channel. Appreciate you guys watching. Definitely hit the subscribe button and catch me next update, why I protect you before and after the storm.